Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Our Avrame Home. My name is Rob and today I want to talk to you about how we chose to frame the gable ends on our very own Trio 120. The gable walls are the walls that go on either end of the A-frame or any house that is with a gable style roof, meaning just like a slope on either side. Both ends are called the gable ends. And so for our house, we have two gable ends and each one is slightly different. And so on one side where we're gonna be having our bedrooms, we have four windows. And on the front side, we have a huge opening on the bottom with the big patio door and then a large window at the very, very top. And so for each one of those gable ends, the framing was slightly different. And the first thing that we had to figure out was how were we going to go about framing it? We had two options. We could balloon frame it, which I've talked about before, I think. It's like where you frame it piece by piece, you just kind of stand it up and build it as you go up, kind of like a balloon raises, I guess that's why it's called balloon framing. Or we could frame the whole wall on the ground and then use our telehandler to lift it up into place. What we chose to do was kind of a hybrid between the two options. We couldn't really frame it on the ground because we didn't have a big enough space to frame a wall of that size. Not only that, but we couldn't get our telehandler to the back of our house to actually lift it up, and we weren't gonna hire a crane to come. And so what we decided to do was a bit of a hybrid where we would build small sections. If we look at the drawings here, you can see that there's small little sections here that we could build little by little and then lift them up into place. And so that's what we did. Built them as we went along, stood them up until we got to about halfway up, and then we just ran out of strength. It was just too heavy to be lifting up those big pieces up the ladder. And so about halfway up, I transitioned to doing balloon framing and just brought up the individual pieces of lumber as I went along. I built a little platform across the trusses so that I'd be able to do that safely without dropping too many pieces. Though I did drop one piece, which is a tip that I'd say is that for building this part of the house, have a friend on site. Because there were many times where I could have used an extra set of hands or two and it would have made things a lot safer and easier as I went along. Okay, so I think I figured out the solution. And the way to do this is with a few people. I have the board just sitting there resting right now. I'm gonna climb up to the top because now I just have to move it a little bit further. I think from up there, if I'm pulling, there's way less leverage needed to get into place. So I can, from the top now, I think, pull it up the rest of the way. And then the way that the board that's fastened right now, the way that that one's cut is on an angle like this. So the other board fits inside of it and will hold it in place just using friction. So if I can just get it up high enough and then slide it into place, hopefully it just holds there. Worst case scenario, I drop it again. So hopefully that doesn't happen. So that's how we built the first of our two gable walls on our house. And after I did that, I paused for a day to actually do something very important, and I'm thankful I did that. I brought in all the interior framing material onto the inside of the house before I built the other gable wall. And that was because I wanted to bring all of the OSB that's gonna go on the inside of the house. I brought in all of the 2x4s that I'm gonna use to frame the interior walls. And I also brought in all of the subfloor material and put that up on the second level, all of this, the subfloor plywood. And I did that before I built that other gable wall because it was just a lot easier to use the telehandler to bring all that material in rather than having to bring it in through the patio doors and have to worry about hitting something or to carry it all in by hand afterward. And so I recommend doing that if you're also building an A-frame house, an Avrame kit. Get all that material in before you build the second gable end wall. When it did come time for me to build it, I did it in pretty much the same way. I built section by section. It went a lot faster when I had a friend with me, but for a lot of it, I was doing it by myself. And the biggest obstacle with that, I think, was trying to line up some of the pieces that like line up on either end of the A-frame, because I'd like climb up the ladder and be like, okay, it needs to go that way a little bit, and then I'd go over and I'd slide the boards back and forth. It took quite a while for me to get everything perfectly lined up, but with the help of the telehandler and a lot of patience, each piece I slowly started working my way up to the top until that very last piece I framed it on the forks of the telehandler and was able to lift it up into place and get it to fit perfectly in line with the rest of the truss system. All that being said, there's one tip that I would like to point out that someone pointed out to me after I was already done assembling it that would have helped me so much, and it's this. In the kit, let me get my drawing here. In the kit, specifically for the bottom of the wall, there is not a continuous bottom plate that runs all the way across the opening there. What that meant is that as I was framing this and as I was putting into place, I had to make sure that those two sides were perfectly in plane with one another, that if you were looking straight down the side of them, you wouldn't see that one's jogged out in front of the other one. On the back side of the house too, there's even a middle section where there's going to be a window on either side. A friend of mine suggested, since there's no continuous bottom plate, to just use your chalk line and just snap a line so that you know that each part of that bottom plate of the wall is perfectly in line. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I've got a chalk line. I've used it for so many other parts of the build, and I wish I would have used it for this part here. I used a long piece of 2x10 and my speed square to try to make it all lined up, and hopefully when it comes time for me to install my windows, it is all perfectly lined up. I think it looks good. Well, that's how we chose to frame our gable walls on our Avrame Trio 120. I want to thank you for watching our video, and I want to encourage you to like and subscribe it so you get more of this content coming into your YouTube feed. Until next time, my name is Rob. We'll see you next time. Bye.